This is Father Andrew Ritchie, and you're listening to Catholic Inspiration, a podcast from my website at studyprayserve.com. These homilies, presentations, and retreats form part of my ministry as a Catholic priest for the Diocese of Superior. And now I invite you to open your hearts to some Catholic inspiration. Today is Wednesday of the 5th week of Easter. Our first reading is taken from Acts of the Apostles, chapter 15, verses 1 to 6. Some who had come down from Judea were instructing the brothers, "Unless you are circumcised according to the Mosaic practice, you cannot be saved." Because there arose no little dissension and debate by Paul and Barnabas with them, it was decided that Paul, Barnabas, and some of the others should go up to Jerusalem to the apostles and presbyters about this question. They were sent on their journey by the church and passed through Phoenicia and Samaria, telling of the conversion of the Gentiles, and brought great joy to all the brethren. When they arrived in Jerusalem, they were welcomed by the church, as well as by the apostles and the presbyters, and they reported what God had done with them. But some from the party of the Pharisees who had become believers stood up and said, "It is necessary to circumcise them and direct them to observe the Mosaic law." The apostles and the presbyters met together to see about this matter. Now, this is chapter 15 of Acts of the Apostles, and this is all about the great council of Jerusalem. This is the first major obstacle challenge that the early church has to face. And simply put, the question is, do you have to be Jewish to believe in Jesus? More pointedly, do you have to be circumcised if you're a man, according to the Jewish practice under Mosaic law, in order to follow Jesus? Because remember, Paul and Barnabas are having an incredible effect among non-Jewish people, the Gentiles. They're talking to people about Jesus, and people are being filled with the Holy Spirit, coming to faith. The church is growing. It's on fire. But now you have within the early church, especially those who are very much about the Jewish practice, out of which salvation history has completely and entirely been fulfilled in the person of Jesus. They're saying, wait a minute, no, you have to have this part of the law, of the promise and practice that was given to us by Moses, part of salvation history. You've got to be circumcised if you want to be saved in this faith of Jesus. So this is what this Council of Jerusalem is all about. So you have the success in the preaching amongst the Gentiles, but you have people saying, how much of the faith, Jesus was Jewish, the apostles were Jewish, how much of the Jewish faith needs to come forward as we now follow Jesus, who is the Messiah, the fulfillment of all of salvation history? Obviously, the church needs to debate this. So this is the first part of this. This is setting the context. For the next 2 days, we're going to hear about this, and we're going to hear how the council will proceed in order to understand what to do. But that begs a question, what happens when we do have challenges and we do have debates and discussions? Because, friends, it's too easy in our world today to tribalize, mark ourselves in one camp or another, and if people aren't in our camp, they're the enemy. Like, we can't talk to them. In fact, the only thing we can do is shout each other down. And that doesn't work. So how do we move forward with a good debate, a good discussion? And I think part of the answer comes from the gospel. This is John chapter 15, verses 1 to 8. Listen to this. Jesus said to his disciples, "I am the true vine. My Father is the vine grower. He takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that does he prunes so that it bears more fruit. You are already pruned because of the word that I spoke to you. Remain in me, as I remain in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me will be thrown out like a branch and wither. People will gather them and throw them into a fire, and they will be burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask for whatever you want and it will be done for you. By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. There's two principles here that I think are really important. To remain in Jesus and have a life that is fruitful. I'm going to use the fruits of the Spirit as their evidence of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. When we enter into a debate, are we remaining in Jesus and are we being fruitful in our speech and our actions? Friends, we can hold very different opinions. We can hold completely different positions. We might need to, in fact. The world's a complicated place, and we might see it differently than the people around us. But one of the key things to move forward is to remain in Jesus and to have a life that is fruitful. When we do that, then people can at least see that we're striving by what we are doing to bear a life that is showing the goodness that comes when we stay close to Christ. And by seeking to remain in Jesus, just like the branches need to be attached to the vine, we need to be attached to the Lord. That's how our life shows its fruitfulness. That's how we can reveal our love for the Lord by, in fact, the manner of our life. And the manner of our life will point out to others the sincerity that we have to authentically follow Christ. The early church had to wrestle with a tough decision. Do you got to be Jewish to believe in Jesus? We're going to hear how that follows in the next couple of days. But I would point out that whenever we have a tough conversation, a tough decision to make, to bring the Lord right into it. Take it to prayer, and then to strive as we live each and every day to say, Lord, do the words I say and do the actions I perform, do they reveal the fruitfulness of my faith? Are they showing that the love I have for you, Lord, is represented in the way in which I interact in the world? Now, if we see that, then keep growing, friends. But if we don't, then we have work to do to draw closer to Christ and to cultivate the fruits of the Spirit within our heart. God bless you all. This is Father Andrew, and I hope this podcast inspires your faith. Now, if you found it helpful, please share it with a friend. And you can help me by leaving a rating and a review. I keep all my listeners in my daily prayers, and I ask for your prayers in return. God bless you, my friends.